Hey everyone, welcome back to Kat's Kitchen. So today we're going to be making a venison pot pie. So I'm going to get right into it. We're going to start with the pastry crust. And this is what we have here first. So for our recipe, and you can tailor this to fit yours, we're going to do 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And we're actually going to save a 1/2 cup of flour just in case we need to add a little extra flour later on. So 1.5 cups of that. We're going to do an entire stick of butter. And this has been sitting out, so it's just room temperature butter. You can do cooler butter and just cut it up a little bit if you'd like. Alrighty. And then we're going to do a teaspoon of salt, whatever salt you like. I'm using Himalayan. 2 teaspoons of our ice water. And then I'm going to just start to get this all melded together. And then just slowly adding in that ice water as I need it, about a teaspoon at a time. Some recipes also call for vodka instead of water, because vodka is pretty much all alcohol, does not contain the H2O. Actually helps bind your dough together a little bit better. Yeah, you may see some recipes that call for that. All right, so next we're going to go back to our flour. I deliberately left 1/2 cup out of this recipe of flour because I didn't want to make too much, because I know I'm going to be adding some back in now in order to get it to bind properly. So I just added in, I'd say about another 1/4 cup of flour. And then we're just going to try to get this bonded together. Adding a little bit more flour in. Another 1/8 cup. And now I'm gently kneading it. You do not want to work this too much. The less you work it, the flakier it'll be. Also, with all that butter in there, it'll be nice and flaky as well. You can see that here, it's taken nice shape. So I'm just going to wrap this up with some cellophane, put it in the fridge, and then when we go to roll it out, it'll be nice and cool, and it'll be easier to roll out and form. All right, everybody, so we've got some ground venison with some olive oil in our cast iron skillet here. And then over here, I am just chopping up some onion for us. This video is not sponsored. You may notice that I am using a new knife. This knife is really, really nice, very sharp. And the skillet that I'm using, they are both from a friend, a dear friend. Her name's Patty. I've known her for many years. And she blessed me with these 2 gifts because she knows I cook so much. So thank you, Patty. I've already used that skillet so much, and this is the first time for the knife, but it's very nice. Nice and sharp. All right, so we're going to add our onion into our ground venison. And just going to get my board scraper. Then we're going to add in our garlic. So we did 2 small onions for 1 pound of ground venison. And then we have, we're going to do 3 teaspoons, which would be 1 tablespoon of garlic. gonna give this a little mix. I'm gonna turn up the flame a little bit. So now we're gonna start seasoning it. I'm gonna start with about 2 teaspoons of some Himalayan salt, or salt of your choice. Use some black pepper. You can use white or black pepper rather. I'm sorry, I'm using white pepper, not black pepper this time. Hit it with some parsley. I know I have onion and garlic in there, but I still like a little extra flavor, so we're just going to give it a little extra onion and garlic powder. I'm going to give it a tiny bit of turmeric. And we're about half a teaspoon with that turmeric. A little bit of Italian seasoning. And then we're going to use some of this Cowboy seasoning. I really like to use it whenever I'm doing steaks. It really gives them a nice flavor. And you can get that at Sam's Club. All right, we're nice and seasoned up now. We're going to give this a toss. Trying to brown up our meat before we make our pie. If you've never cooked with venison before or have ever eaten it, it's very, very lean, a lot leaner than ground beef, but it is on the gamey side, so you kind of have to be okay with that. Definitely try it. It's always good to try. I'm going to kill the heat there and take this off our heat. I don't want this to cook anymore. It's actually going to cook the rest of the way in the oven. I'm going to turn our oven on now. Preheat it to 350. We may be turning it up a little bit later. Alrighty, so now we're going to make our beef gravy. Don't really have a recipe for a venison gravy because, like I said, there's not a lot of fat that comes off the venison in order to make a gravy off of there. So what we're going to do is be making a beef, just use some beef base. Okay, so we're going to do, for 1 pint, we need 2.5 teaspoons of beef base. And I have 1 3/4 cup of water in here. Then we're going to whisk this together and add a 1/4 cup of flour. You want to add your flour while your water is still cool. That way, hopefully it won't get too clumpy for you. Just whisking with one hand and adding a little bit of flour at a time with the other hand. For whatever you need. Try to get that flour dissolved. Show you what it looks like here. Try to get that dissolved, and then your beef base will eventually dissolve. It'll probably take a little longer for that. Okay, so our gravy is done. I had to add significant more amount of water. This is I believe it's a 4-quart pot, so I just filled that up. And then I had to transfer all of the veggies and the meat into my big stock pot so I would have room to mix. I have my sieve here. I'm just going to pour my gravy through my sieve so it's nice and smooth, and then we're going to mix this up. So here we go. And I'm going to use 2 hands just to make sure that don't spill. I made a lot more gravy just because That's one of the things, you don't want your pie to be dry. I did all except for, there's probably about half a cup left in there. Actually looks like this is going to be really good. Just gonna put this back here, get you guys a good look here. So it almost looks like a stew. That's perfect. That's right where we want it. All right, so we're just rolling out our dough here. Just going right in the middle. And hitting the corners. And then you're going to want to keep turning it over so that you get it even, nice and even. And then obviously so it doesn't stick. Just starting in the middle and then going out to the edges. Lifting up a little bit whenever I push through. Trying to be consistent with the shape. Okay, looking good. Next, we're just going to take, you can do this a few ways. You can just either fold it in like this a little bit, since we had so much flour down there. Hopefully it won't stick. Then you put your dish in. I've sprayed this dish with an olive oil spray. Okay, and then you just kind of roll it back the other way. This is obviously deep dish, so we're going to have to give it a little bit more on the bottom than on the top. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take our hand on the inside and then gather up the dough and let it sit down inside all the way at the bottom. Make sure it's seated all the way down there. Okay. Don't want any pockets. May have a few creases, but just kind of press them out. And then we're gonna get our knife and we're just gonna kind of push on the top a little bit just to kind of keep it sturdy. Hold the pan with one hand, take your knife with the other, and then we're just gonna cut right around the side. There's your bottom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-bake this a little bit. So I'm just going to pop a few holes in here so it can vent. And then we're going to let this bake for just until we basically get the top done. So probably about 5 to 10 minutes. And this is on 350. So now we're back working on our top portion of our pastry. We're on, obviously we want to maneuver it as less as possible, but we kind of have to reshape it again, so we're going to have to knead it again a little bit, just enough to bring it together, and then we'll roll it back out for the top. Alright, so we have our deep dish out. You can see it kind of pulled away a little bit, but that's not terrible. I just have a ladle now. I'm going to ladle our venison mixture into our deep dish. And just from the heat of our gravy, our spinach cooked down just the way we needed it to. So we have carrots, white potato, spinach, our venison, and then our beef gravy in here, along with our seasonings. So I probably have enough in here. I'm actually going to take a little out because I don't want it to spill over incredibly, and that's why I have this pan with some foil underneath. I probably have enough to make another little one. Or honestly, we could probably just heat this up and eat it like it is, kind of like a stew. And I might do that. Next, we're going to take our top layer of our pastry. You can do this a few different ways. I don't want to waste any pastry, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to kind of push down on top in order to get that seal nice. I'm just going to kind of do like a little bit of a rustic look. And because you can do this a few different ways, you can crimp it like you would a pie, where you put your thumb and you crimp like that. That's also another way. Since this is a meat pie, I figured I'd do it a little bit different and just kind of fold it in, just because I don't want to lose any of that really nice crust that we just made. We're going to do a little bit of a vent hole. And you can make this look pretty. You can make this look any way you want. I'm going to base the top of this with some milk. Or you can do an egg wash. And this will help it to get nice and brown. This is going to bake. I'm actually going to turn up the oven now to 375. It's probably going to take about an hour because our veggies still need to cook and it'll be bubbling. And I'm going to check it in probably about a half hour just to see how far along it's coming. So here we are before we bake it. All right, guys, here we are. We just pulled our little pie out of the oven. It's nice and crispy. I'm just gonna cut right into this with my metal spoon. There's really no nice way to do this. I'm just gonna use a bowl. A little on the messy side. There we go. There you have it, guys. It's our Venison Cottage Pie. It's gonna be awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe, and give this video a thumbs up if you'd like to see more like it. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one.